I have to start with, what is your motivation to become mayor? So what led you to run for mayor?
I've fallen deeply in love with the city. I do. I love San Antonio. And my love for the city is met also with equal amounts of gratitude for the city, right? I chose San Antonio. I came to college here. I've been here since 1992. But as soon as I got here, I realized this was a place I never ever wanted to leave. And with each year that passed, I got more and more involved in helping make sure my city was strong and smart and resilient and authentic, right? So I joined boards and commissions, and I've been part of the conversation. Other people have hobbies, like watching the Cowboys or watching the Spurs or collecting comic books or whatever people do, right? My hobby is actually serving on boards and commissions and just having the important conversations about where we're going. And so my trajectory has just brought me to City Hall, right? And as I was looking around, I realized a few things. San Antonio is at this historical inflection point, right? Where we've got a choice. We can be better, and we can be stronger, we can be smarter, we can be more resilient, right? Or we can be the strongest, the best, the most resilient, the safest city in the United States, the most authentic city in the world. I believe that those goals are perfectly reasonable, and it's our time to set those goals. So I looked around, and I was listening to all the other leaders who were considering running for mayor, and none of them were speaking in terms of safest, strongest, smartest, most resilient. They were all speaking about taking the city to a better place, but incrementally, right? And to be honest with you, I've grown impatient with incrementalism. And I think my city, the city that I'm gonna leave my children, deserves leadership that is striving for the moonshot, right? To be the safest. Nothing wrong for us to aspire to that. And to be honest with you, I was uninspired by a lot of the messages that I heard from people who were thinking they were going to, run for mayor. And, life presents us with these choices every once in a while, and those choices are, if not me, well then who, right? And if not now, well then when? And the choice became evident, right? That there was a leadership void that needs to be filled, and I think that I'm doing it for the right reason, right? I'm doing it out of just love for my city and for the people in it. And I'm doing it for gratitude. And that's the kind of leader I've always wanted. And my children are watching, right? And we talk a lot about leadership at home. And I think it's my obligation as a dad to prepare them for the path, right? But also prepare the path for my children, right? And I think it's the obligation of a mayor to think in those terms too, right? And I didn't see that being communicated, so I threw my hat in the ring. And it's a great horse race. I'm having a really interesting time hearing other people's visions for the city, but I think San Antonio is lucky to have this horse race on its hands.
So you've obviously served as city council member. You're terming out.
Yeah.
Do you have any criticisms of the current administration, and what would you like to carry on, and what would you like to change?
So I am the current administration, right? So I think one of the things that I expect from leaders is humility, right? And we've made mistakes. And so I'll tell you, the big debate over Avenue B or Avenue A and the bicycles, right? I disagreed with Mayor Nirenberg about whether or not we should put the bicycles on Broadway or Avenue A or Avenue B. And there is a little bit of daylight between us when we talk about some of the smaller things, right? But as it relates to the big ones, you and I were talking earlier, one of the things that I am incredibly honored to be is a council member with these council people, with some, whom sometimes I disagree with fiercely, right? But the one thing we don't disagree with is that we started a conversation 8 years ago about compassion, right? Compassion being the principle that leads and informs all of our decisions. That conversation was started by the mayor. That conversation needs to continue, especially now. The world is a little broken, right? And one thing that I'm seeing is that people are celebrating the abandonment of compassion, right? And that worries me a lot. I think it's our obligation as leaders to set an example of compassion, make sure that government is accessible, make sure that we're being fair and just, right? And that everybody has the opportunity. I'm not talking about handouts. I'm talking about making sure that we block and tackle so that people have the opportunity to work hard and thrive, right? That's the conversation we started 8 years ago with the mayor. And so disagreements as to, some of the granular little things, that's the nature of deliberative government, right? But on the big things, I'm telling you, we are all walking lockstep towards a San Antonio that is known across the world for being what everybody knows we are, a big city with a small town feel and a small town heart.
San Antonio is undergoing a bit of a development boom with the airport expansion, downtown sports and entertainment district plans, and plans for new via lines. How would you help facilitate these projects, and should they remain priorities for the city, particularly for the downtown district?
Well, cities that don't grow, right, and cities that don't compete are cities that fail, right? And we fail at creating jobs for the next generation. Right? We fail at maintaining quality of life for the people who are already here and who are, getting older. We fail to create opportunities for folks to be absorbed into the economy, which is a new economy, a post-COVID economy, that is characterized by tech and AI and innovation and the life sciences. And so if we don't chase all these opportunities, there's lots of cities out there who would be delighted to take this stuff from us, right? One thing that the mayor and I did disagree on, and my heart's still broken over it, right, was remember when Amazon announced that they were looking for a new city for their world headquarters. And we announced, and by we I mean the mayor and Nelson Wolff stood out and in front of the crowd and announced San Antonio won't compete for this because of the long list of things that are wrong with us. We're too illiterate, right? We're too poor. We're too segregated. We're too unhealthy. We're too fat, right? We're too much diabetes, whatever. I thought that was such a failed opportunity. We really missed a chance to speak our values, right? As mayor, what I would have done is I would have stood in front of the world and said, Amazon, you'd be dumb if you didn't come to San Antonio. You'd be foolish to not come to the best city in the United States with the best people in the United States. And yeah, we got our challenges. What city doesn't, right? But we're ready to compete. Right? I think that would have spoken volumes to the world, but it would have also spoken volumes to the people of San Antonio that we believe in them, right? And I think that for way too long, we have not been speaking optimistically about our potential. I want the next mayor to stop scaring people. And by the way, scaring people is the method by which we are seeing leaders from DC all the way down to municipal levels all over the country telling them, you're too poor, you're broke, you're illiterate, you need my help, right? And without me, the parade of horribles will plow over you, right? I don't think that's good. I don't think that's healthy. I think instead a mayor should be out there letting the world know we're ready. We're strong, we're fantastic, we got character, we're authentic. And we also, two things can be true at once. We can be amazing and also have problems that we need to fix, right? It's like my children, right? I think my children are perfect, right? I think they're wonderful, but even I recognize that there's some areas that we need to improve on, right? I think the same is true for a city, and as being the mayor is very much like being the city's father, right? And you have to love your city, you have to and express that love and that passion for your city's future, while at the same time shepherding it towards the right choices and shepherding it away from risk and the wrong choices. I'd like to see us return to a tone of of optimism and a tone about speaking about our future in terms that are bright and inspirational.
A recent poll by UTSA found that crime, homelessness, and affordable housing were the top 3 most important problems, according to the respondents.
Yeah.
Unemployment, the federal budget deficit, and racism ranked among the least important. Do you agree with these priorities?
Look, I do not think that any elected official should ever miss an opportunity to validate the feelings of people in San Antonio. I've also been around town. That poll is not a surprise. I've been all over San Antonio, and people are telling me I feel less safe than I should. Right, the cost of living is a little too high. I'm worried about the homelessness that I'm seeing everywhere, and what I remind them is that a leader, one of our jobs is to talk about where we were, where we are, and where we're going. Where we were. Over the past 40 years, if you really do a longitudinal look at our crime rates, they have gone down dramatically. And yesterday we heard our crime rates are down again across the board. We have been moving in the right direction. The problem is that in America, we all have very, very short memories, right? And we are fed this constant slow drip of reminders from the White House all the way on down to, right? From our leaders telling us, you aren't safe without me. Right, and you're in danger, right? They're coming to your town to eat your cats and your dogs, right? They're all rapists. They're all here to rob you. And the reality is that San Antonio is a very safe city. Are we the safest city in the United States? We're not. I think that problem comes with us being a big city, right? And we got big city problems. More and more and more people are coming here, and they're bringing their opportunities, their kids, their cats, their dogs, their cars, but their problems too. Right? We still have a lot to do to catch up to other cities as far as mopping up the mess of generational poverty and redlining. Those are some of the challenges I'm talking about. But we got the right people at the table, right? And we need to make sure that the mayor continues to, push the pedal to the metal on taking care of those folks who are most vulnerable. But I do disagree on one thing. I disagree that when we talk about us as a city and our future, anybody out there who's telling you that we need to be a little bit safer, and then the next year a little bit more and a little bit more, I don't think that person should be mayor, right? I think the mayor should be setting some pretty bold visionary goals. How about this? We will become the safest city in the United States. We will become the smartest city in the United States and the strongest city in the United States, while protecting that thing that makes us us, our authenticity, our character, our history, our language, right? And our cultural traditions. I haven't heard of a mayor talk that way in a long time, and that's why I'm running. I want to bring that conversation so that everybody in San Antonio gets behind one mission, to be the absolute best, so that every other city in the world says, San Antonio figured it out, and we're going to do it the San Antonio way. I want to make sure that the San Antonio way becomes viral, and that everybody wants to emulate us because they admire us. And I think it's possible.
The mayor's office is now a 4-year term instead of 2 years. How does that change how you might approach your priorities?
Not at all. My priorities have been, continue to be, and will be forever and ever, making sure that we set a table for people who want to join the conversation and move us forward and help, right? Whether that's a 2-year term, a 1-year term, a 4-year term, an 8-year term, the mayor has the responsibility to make sure that that table is set for people who want to advance the best interests of the city. Now, yes, granted, 4 years gives you more runway to be able to put in place projects and start projects that have longer horizons, right? I think that's very important, considering that Project Marvel is a project that we're looking into 2030, right, to finish that. An airport expansion, with the development of Port San Antonio, what's happening down by Texas A&M. I think the next mayor is going to have the obligation to embrace complexity, right? And sometimes that complexity, the universe doesn't serve it to you in 2-year chunks, right? The universe serves you complexity, and that complexity sometimes requires long-term vision. So, but the approach, I think, is what's important, and people have a choice, right? They can elect a mayor who understands how to embrace complexity and who's ready for that, while at the same time making sure that everybody who needs to be at the table is at the table. I think both things are possible.
San Antonio has had a rocky recent history when it comes to getting along with top state officials. How would you approach the relationship?
So the mayor has an obligation to do two things. We show up, and council members do too. We show up on our day of inauguration, we get sworn in, and the oath is really important. It is fealty and loyalty to the people of San Antonio first, before anything else, right? And we swear to God, right, that we will put our own interests, right, and our own biases and all that aside and only advocate for and fight for the people of San Antonio. The mayor has an obligation to make sure to fight against anybody, be they in private industry, be they in the public sector or any other government, who is trying to erode our ability to manage our own affairs, right? The mayor has an obligation to speak loud, out front, and not be distracted by voices around the mayor saying, hey, just get along, right? We don't need you to get punched in the nose by a bully, right? Mayor has to be unafraid. At the same time, the mayor also has to negotiate, right? And bring, like I said, bring people to a table that's set for people who want to advance the conversation. I'm a lawyer. And I've been fighting, my entire career. That's what I do for a living, and I'm really good at it, right? And one of the reasons I'm really good at it is because I always know when it's time to stop fighting and to start negotiating and mediating. This is what I do for a living, right? This is not something that is alien to me, right? Of all the people running for this position, I'm the only one who's made a living fighting, right? And putting my own interests aside for the interests of my clients. I think that's important. That kind of experience and that expertise and that lived, experience is incredibly important. And I think the next mayor, this city would be benefited by a mayor who knows how to do that.
What is the first thing you plan to do once in office, and what will you set to accomplish in your first 100 days?
I think 100 days is too long. Every politician out there is going to tell you, I got a 100-day plan. We got things that we need to do within the first 5 days, right? Number one, I think the public needs to hear an affirmative declaration from City Hall in the form of a vote that we set as a goal to be the safest city in the United States. Mayor Nirenberg brought us a goal on his first day, and that goal was that we become a city that really respects our environment and our natural resources, right? Clean water, clean air. I agree with him on that. I think that was a bold move. That conversation needed to happen. But to the point you made earlier, San Antonio right now has this feeling of anxiety that they're not safe. Day number one needs to be a contract with the people to get us to the goal of being the safest of America. That means that we will make a contract with the people, a binding contract with the voters, that we will increase police headcount, that we will hire only the best police officers, right? That we will push every single pedal available to us to make sure that we are eradicating the problem of domestic violence, that we are eradicating homelessness while at the same time being compassionate and enforcing our rules, right? That we are going to finally face head-on this problem of fentanyl, and that we will not tolerate any organized crime, for example, Tren de Aragua from Venezuela, right? We won't do that. Contract number one, on day one. Contract number two is we will enter and do a deal with the people of San Antonio and obligate us to set a goal that we are going to be the smartest city on the planet. That means that we will throw all our weight behind Texas A&M, UTSA, and all of our other universities so that they're graduating the folks that are going to be solving the big problems for us. We are going to make sure to bring in subject matter experts and look at our budget and make sure that we're budgeting the exact same smart way that companies like Toyota, Microsoft, and Valero budget, right? And we're going to do things the smart way, making sure that everything we do is led by best practices. Day number 3, we are going to make a commitment that we are going to be the strongest city in the United States. And that means that we are going to be prepared for any challenge that impedes our ability to keep on moving forward. I'm talking about mega storms. I'm talking about hurricanes. I'm talking about hailstorms, extreme heat, floods. We are not a city that is ready for the next Hurricane Harvey. On my watch, by the time I'm done, we will be the envy of American cities as it relates to preparedness for catastrophes. But we'll also be strong in our economy, right? We are going to be the city that takes care of the small business problem. And by that I mean, it's hard to be a small business owner, right? And we are going to be a city that makes it easier to be a small business owner. We're going to get out of the way of employers that are trying to innovate. We're going to make it easier to build houses than harder to build houses. And then the 4th day, we're going to be the most authentic city. It's going to be a contract with the people where we will say that we will protect everything that makes us, the good stuff, our character, our history, our art, our music, right? And we will enter into a contract with the people so that they know that even though we're growing dramatically, that we're going to protect, we're going to wrap and bubble wrap our character. And on day number 5, we are going to enter into a contract with the folks of San Antonio about our future. We're going to declare that it is now the beginning of a process called Target 50 that is going to create a comprehensive longitudinal plan to declare what we want our future to look like by 2050. And we're going to get there. But we can't do this by setting 100-day plans. 100-day plans, by the way, is cliches. Everybody does it, and they're rather meaningless, right? I think the first thing a mayor does in the first 5 days is set a tone. And that's what I want to do.
What experience of yours do you expect to lean on hardest if elected to be mayor?
First of all, being a dad, right? Being a parent, I think gives us a lot of perspective, right? As a parent, you give your life to make sure that your kids have everything they need and that they're protected, right, as much as you can from risks and threats. I think you bring that to the mayor's office, and 90% of the job, is taken care of. The second thing is that this is a job interview, right? And when you're hiring a CEO, if you're and by the way, that's what the people are doing, right? They're hiring the CEO of the city. The CEO comes in and says, hey, I got a vision for you. I want our company to be a little stronger, a little better, a little safer, and here's big vision for you. That doesn't sound very inspiring, right? If the CEO comes in also, the CEO candidate says, I got great vision, but I got no expertise and I got no experience to back it up, that's not the guy you're going to hire or the woman you're going to hire, right? If they come in and say, look, I got a lot of expertise because I got a PhD and I went to school forever and ever, but I don't got any experience and my vision is kind of hard to understand, that's also not a candidate that should be on your short list of hiring, right? I think that if anybody hires a CEO, what they're going to want is somebody who brings a bold vision, which I've been articulating to you today, to subject matter expertise in what we do, right? What do? We do, we develop out a city and do infrastructure. I was the chairman of Brook City Base for a long time. I was on the board of trustees for VIA Metropolitan Transit, right? I have served in lots of different capacities to do infrastructure, and I've done it, right? I led the way on the rate advisory committee for SAWS. I was the chairman of the bond committee dedicated to Phil Hardberger's drainage package, right? I have taken a deep dive and become an expert in a lot of these things, right, that we do, but I got the experience to back it up also. And then I've also got the vision, right? I would challenge anybody to look at what I bring to the table. I check off those 3 boxes. I don't think any other mayor candidate does. And I love the people who are running. I really do. Many of them, not most of them, are my friends. I admire them for throwing their hat in the ring. But this is a moment where vision, experience, and expertise matters. And I don't see that in all the other candidates.
Which leads perfectly into my next question.
Perfectly.
Why are you the best candidate for this job?
I think you got to do it for the right reasons, right? And you got to do it informed by a passionate love for your city. I got that. You also have to make sure that if you're going to look the voters in the eye, you got to be prepared to have difficult conversations with them and humble yourself in the face of their life experiences. I'm a mediator by training, right? I've served as the general counsel for the Battered Women and Children's Shelter for 25 years. My job is having difficult conversations with folks who find themselves in a state of vulnerability. I think also, aside from subject matter expertise in what the city's functions are, and then the experience that I laid out for you earlier, I think the vision needs to be vision with a capital V, right? I think you got to inspire people. And there's the old saying about, you can't lead a horse to water and you can't make him drink. I don't think the mayor's job should be to lead the horse to water. And I don't think the mayor's job should be to make them drink. I think the mayor's job is to make the horse thirsty, right? And make them want to run as fast as possible and achieve big things. That's what I do for my clients. That's what I do for the nonprofits that I've been helping my entire life. That's what I do for my constituents. And that's what I do for the city staff as well. But the other thing that I think the mayor needs to do is pick a fight every once in a while, right? And be ready to punch somebody in the nose if they dare come and threaten San Antonio's ability to thrive. And then lastly, I think a mayor's job is also the ability to say no, right? This is a grown-up job. You're going to hear a lot of candidates out there promising you the world and promising things that are quite honestly not the city's function. We don't have the tools, we don't have the legal authority to do some of those things. And we need to be able to look the voters in the eye and say, cities are important, but there are certain things that are within our ability to do. And we have to have a difficult conversation about what is possible, what we want, but what we can do in the face of what we need. I bring that to the table as well. And then lastly, I think the mayor needs to have been there, right? And by that I mean Storm Uri. We had people die during that freeze, right? I rolled up my sleeves, I went and chopped wood, and I delivered thousands of pounds of wood to constituents that had no heat for that, horrible moment in time. I was there handing out food and water during COVID and after Hurricane Harvey. I was there putting my arms around battered women who just needed somebody to lean on in court, right? I was there during the tough fight when CPS Energy had to go and sue all those speculative gas companies who were charging us gouging, outrageous prices just to survive during Hurricane Uri. I was there volunteering at hospitals during COVID. You can't say that about the other candidates who are running for office. Many of them are MIA, right? Like I said, some of them bring vision, and some of them are what we call Johnny-come-lately, right? And I think it's really important for people to look around and say, during the hard times, who stood with me? And I did.